Good morning. Welcome. This is Angela Coulter, your Consciousness Transformation Ascension Guide and originator of Trinity Energy Progression, bringing you this week's Living the Shift podcast. And what I want to talk about today, as I'm pulling up this, what I feel like we need to talk about today are stories. It's funny because I was waiting on some guidance on this, and it was so simple when it came in because we're a week out from Christmas. There's a bunch of, not just Christmas, there's Yule, there's Hanukkah, there's all this other stuff going on, right? It's the month, okay? And good morning, Kathy. And, oh good, I'm seeing that, good, so I don't have to maybe look at my phone, that'll be good. Anyway, so I talk to so many people who, we do great, and there's been so much in terms of spiritual growth and development and expansiveness. And then they get to the holidays, right? And then they come to me and they're like, I don't know, I was doing so well. Hey, Mandy, how are you? Thanks for joining. So they go, I was doing so well. I can hold myself in a great vibration. I feel so good. I feel so authentic. And then the holidays, I go and visit my family, or I spend time with my family in a way that, then I get sick. I get upset. I allow myself to lower my vibration, all that kind of stuff. And it's not that everybody's family has lower vibration. That's the funny thing. It's that what happens, I know often, is we get stuck in what I call stories. We get stuck in the stories of who we are, the identities of like how we interact and the roles that we play in different situations. And then we adopt that as part of our identity. And whether we feel like that aligns with our higher self or not, or feel like that really aligns with our whole self, our authentic self, for whatever reason, we believe we have to sacrifice that when we're around people that we know. Now, here's the thing. So at the holidays, it becomes very prevalent because we go and visit and see people that we don't typically see, or we have people visit us that we don't see that often. And what happens is we allow ourselves to say, okay, well, even if this isn't authentically me, right, as to where I am now, but this is how this person knows me, and for me to be accepted, right, as part of the family or whatever, then I need to get along with this person or act this way with this person, or I have to act the way that I used to so that this other person will accept me because that's how they believe me to be. These are all subconscious things, and they're very deeply programmed beliefs. So then we go visit, or we have them visit us, and we spend time with them. And it's not that we don't enjoy or love them. It's that then we spend a bunch of time being somebody we're not, right? Because our families like to remember us as they knew us when, so for example, you grow up and you become an adult and then you move away from where the family, your parents are, right? And you don't see your parents that much. Well, this is still a new, this generation now that's coming into adulthood is really actually before that, I would say the generation that I was a part of was the first generation where they actually started to move away from the parents in their hometown and all kind of stuff. And we became much more mobile. We became, much more transient and moving around stuff and whatever. So what happens is it's almost like you have a freeze frame when you leave of how you interacted at that point in time. And then you go off and do your life and whatever. Now, it's becoming more and more accepted as those who are coming to adulthood now. It's because of our mobility and the internet and everything else, it's more common to move away and explore the world. And, everybody, not just the kids, but many of the parents and many of the people in say my age group or whatever, where our kids grow up and they go out on their own, and you're like, okay, well, now it's time for me to go and do whatever I want to do and travel the world and go where I want to go. So Then we have the generations before that was like, oh no, you need to stay near your parents, you need to stay near the core family and all that kind of stuff. So when you moved away, there was this freeze frame of how you were when you were with the core family, and that's how they remember you. That's how they know how to interact with you. And unless they know like you as you are in your life currently, then there's a friction, right? And that's where we then at some level feel like we have to sacrifice who we really are, our authenticity of where we are today, because I don't go by that belief or that saying that, we never change. Actually, I think we change every day. I know we change every day, especially right now, especially in this accelerated period of awakening and expansion, evolution. We are changing like hour to hour, moment to moment. And so it's sort of crazy to think that somebody who, now, yes, we have a core essence, our core energy stays the same. And if somebody knows you through your core energy, that's one thing. But when they know you through habits and limitations, right? And things that say we don't dwell in anymore, or that we've grown past, right? Then there's this friction of like how somebody knows you versus how you know yourself. And so what I see time and time again is people coming to me and saying things like, oh, I went home for the holidays to see my family, everybody, or my parents, everybody got together. And actually there's a friend of mine I know she's got some of her best friends are from like when she went to middle school, like, and she's in her 60s. And she said, I love them all. She goes, I love them for who they are, but I don't know, like they still sort of tease me like I used to be when I was 20 years ago or 25 years ago. And she's like, and I'm consistently, like being who I am. And I don't know why they don't see me that way. And I'm like, well, it's what people want. So it makes them feel comfortable, right? So that's where the friction starts to happen. And as we change and evolve and it's really not changing, actually. The shift in perception is to get to this place of understanding that it's who we knew how to be at a certain time. And I look at it as that we're shedding ourselves of the stuff that's inauthentic to a place of authenticity. So that's why if somebody knows you by your essence and by your energy, then they will always know you. But if they only know you through your habits and how you act and how they judge you, right, then it's never going to be congruent with where you are right this moment, because they're like holding stuff in the past that happened in the past and the present, right? So like we like to get together with our family, and we like to make jokes about, like things that happened when we were kids, things our kids did when they were little. And of course we talk about all that kind of stuff. But the thing is, it's like, I don't know, it's funny, like how many people go like, well, I get teased, I get whatever, and I just, or I get totally discounted because of this was the thing. And I'm like, okay, so first of all, the first place to get to is remember that it's none of your business what other people think of you, because where they are has nothing to do with you. It has to do with where they are. Like what they think of you is where they are right now. You could be like one completely different person than somebody else. You could be like what you believe is the best person in the world. And if somebody is judging you based on something they knew from the past or whatever, or where they are, right? If they believe that something is bad that you do or whatever, then it doesn't matter what you do. It's just gonna, if they think it's scary or whatever. So I see that happening a lot with people who get into a much more authentic space, like in day-to-day life, and then they sort of get pulled back into these places when they're like, around their family and the holidays and stuff like that. It's like these roles that they're expected to be in. And then what the subconscious thing is the whole subconscious belief is that we have to be loved by somebody else to be lovable, we have to be valued by somebody else to be worthwhile. And when we continue to focus on self-love, unconditional self-love, on expressing your divine manifestation of who you are, your divine embodiment, to be all that you can be, then you're emanating love from the inside out. Then you stop depending on what other people think of you, to judge yourself, to believe that you're worthy, you're lovable, or whatever. Because essentially, if you stay in your authenticity and you do so from love and honesty and whatever, then if somebody is triggered or reacts to you, there's nothing you can do about that, but just stay in that space. Because when we start to then change to try to embody what somebody expects of us, then we're not being authentic to ourselves. And we're not being authentic to other people either. And we're sacrificing who we really are so that other people will like us or love us, right? So then people say, well, but it's my family. And, what if they, don't want to see me anymore? I'm like, then they don't want to see you anymore. And by the way, your biological family or the people you grew up with, it's who you chose as a soul family in that part of your life. And you can get to different parts of your life where it's not necessary for you to be in each other's day-to-day world. And that's okay. And you can be different. And, people fear what they don't understand. That's a great Marie Curie quote, right? We fear what we don't understand. So if you are in your own life of expansion and consciousness and intuition, and where you come from or the family that you were born to or grew up with doesn't have that perspective, right? Or they're stuck in their own thing. No matter what you do, it's not. It might be vilified, made fun of, dismissed, right? I hear that all the time. It's like, oh well, what do you know, right? Or they get afraid of you, right? There's so many different things because what you're reflecting back to them is stuff they're uncomfortable with looking at within themselves. So all you can do is hold a space of love. All you can do is be in this place of authenticity, because that honors you and it honors the other people. And they won't change the way they see you unless you continuously and consistently command your own authenticity, right? When you command that authenticity and you're just like, okay, yeah, well, that's how I used to be, but this is where I am today, right? Like, and I honestly, I had to do that for quite a while with my family. And I'd even like others, like my kids, when they were younger to when they were in a very, I guess, preteens and stuff, when I started really shifting and whatever. And so it took a while to be like, yeah, but that's how I used to be. Not where I am today. This is where I am today. And I would do that consistently. And then eventually they saw that consistency and then they adapted to it in the way that, and by the way, when we command our own authenticity, when we stay in that, right, it gives other people around us the permission to do it. Now, first, they might resent it. And eventually they might look at it and say, well, this person does this. Like, always be the eccentric aunt or, daughter or whatever in the family, or son or black sheep, whatever, because you at least give other people permission to see things from a different perspective. And a lot of times, especially when you have a very central core family unit that lives really close together, they get lost in their stories. You get lost in the stories of, what you expect from this person, the roles that they play, how things are supposed to go. And then you get stuck in like judging other people and judging yourself. And then you just forget that authenticity. I think the people that I've worked, well, now I know the people that I've worked with who've had the hardest, really most challenging time really allowing their authentic self to come to the surface are the ones who are so embedded in those kind of roles. They're so like sort of surrounded, and they allow themselves to be almost suffocated by them, that they don't feel like they can find a way out because they're so entrenched in these beliefs of, I can't step out of this role in this way because otherwise, this person will be unhappy. This will like ruin this person's life. Like we tell ourselves these stories to give ourselves value, and others tell us that too. And then we allow them to give us value, versus saying, actually, me sacrificing myself for this person is actually not honoring their journey, because it's taking on stuff for them that they would have to deal with themselves if I stepped away and just really focused on my authenticity and my journey. And if I'm guided, I will always hold that space, and I will always like be there if I'm guided to be there. But when we're sacrificing ourselves and who we are to be somebody else for somebody else, then we're not actually honoring our own journey, and we're not honoring theirs either. So this is about the stories. These are the stories that I'm talking about. Like, we are so, we talk at the holidays, especially, we talk about, oh, well, remember the year this, and remember the person who did this, and remember when this happened. And yes, of course, it's nice to reminisce, and it's great. It's great to remember, especially the moments that are the most touching, right? Or funny, because it connects us. The ones that are sad and angry or whatever, those are the things that we sometimes hang on to, and then we get angry with somebody, and then we hold grudges. And then, this is on the flip side, then we judge them, right, for how they are and where their journey is, and it's not our business. It's like, it's none of our business to worry about what they think about us. But then what happens is we spend so much time in that judgment that when, say, that person passes or you pass or whatever, then everybody like gets into this place of regret. I should have done this, or I should have done that, or I should have been more authentic. How many times I've seen or heard, I should have been more authentic. I should have told my parents this, or I should have told this person this who's passed, about myself, because I always felt like I was not sharing all of me and not being authentic as to who I am. So they didn't really know who I am. And that's really something that for us to truly focus on shifting. If we commit ourselves to ourself, if we commit ourselves to finding that unconditional self-love and that authenticity, then we can honor where we are now, and we can honor everybody else for where they are now. And by the way, that allows us to open our hearts and open ourselves to accept everyone for where they are and to see them for who they are. And actually, when you start feeling their essence and not paying attention or judging them or deciding on who they are based on their actions versus their essence and their energy, right? When we start to look at their energy, then we know them more purely than if we are continuously focused on what they do or they don't do, including ourselves. So, I have a lot of people that come to me and they do say, they're saying, well, how do I stay authentic? I have people who would judge me or afraid of me and everything else. I'm like, well, just do it. Commit to yourself. You deserve it. And is it going to be uncomfortable? It can be. It can be very uncomfortable, especially in the beginning, when you first do it, because when you change something that other people are just used to, because they have their own comfort zone that they've created, when you break that comfort zone because you've now changed that role or that, persona that they believe you are in that mind, then that shakes them up to have to let go of something in their comfort zone. So then sometimes it does trigger them and get them angry, and then they try to project onto you. And we do the same thing. We do that with other people who try, like in the past, what we've done is, like, if other people, like, they've changed, oh, well, something got into them, or, they got brainwashed or whatever, instead of saying, well, what's their essence? What do they feel like now? Do they feel truly, truly fulfilled within themselves, right? Do you feel where they're searching within themselves? Do you feel, instead of judging, because a lot of times we go into these situations judging others for judging us before we even get there. And if you go in with an open heart and an open mind that's open to all possibilities, and say, okay, so I'm going to allow this to unfold in a way that is going to be enjoyable and love-filled, and then we're going to connect heart to heart. And so it's going to be a fulfilling, interactive experience. I'm going to hold a space of love, and I'm going to stay in my authenticity, and it's going to be an enjoyable thing. You can set that and put it out there before you ever go, before you ever get together with this person or these people, before you go on a trip with, to visit, before they come to visit, because how many times I've heard people saying, oh, my in-laws coming over, or my parents are coming, and it's always so challenging because I always have to, then I feel like I'm 10 years old again. And I'm like, okay, but that's your choice. That is your choice. You can back off, take a breath, and be like, you know what? I am who I am, and I'm happy with who I am. If I'm happy with who I am, I'm going to exude that, and they can accept me or not, right? But I can also walk into this not judging them for past behavior as well, because we do the same thing, by the way. No matter how much we'll sit there and go, oh, well, I'm afraid they're going to, I'm going to, like, get sick, or I'm going to, lower my vibration, whatever. That's a judgment, because then you're putting the power on other people to do that for you instead of you knowing that you do that yourself. And you're holding them in a role that they've always had, instead of saying, well, maybe we'll have a good time. Maybe we're all in a different place now. Maybe they've changed. Maybe or maybe they've become more authentic into them, and I can be a more, and me being a more authentically me, they can be authentically them, and we can really connect, truly connect, instead of just doing this, oh yeah, check it off the list. We got together. I can say I saw my parents or my family over the holidays. That's such a, and in reality, when you talk about lower vibration, that's really a lower vibration attitude to take. But when you come into it saying, I am so full of love, I am so settled and so central into my own unconditional self-love that all I can do is exude it. And I know that everybody that I meet is going to do the same. And so we're going to have this amazing love-filled interactions. And I'm going to hold that space no matter what. And I am going to leave my heart and mind open to enjoying every moment with blank, with whoever that is. And that is regardless of all the past experiences you've had with them. I'm going to give them that chance of authenticity today in this moment, as I am going to do that for myself. And that takes away so many other things. And yes, of course, you can bring out fun stories or even some, challenging ones, as long as you're not attached to them in this moment as to that defining you or another person, right? Things have come up, when things come up and that happens and it's fun and we laugh about it, whatever. And it was I always say that is so, I always look at it as, this is a very core, funny part to you, right? And this was how it was, embodied at this point back then, right? And it was so funny. And you're still so funny, and look at this, or look at how it's developed, or look at how it's even evolved, or whatever. So I try to keep that very conscious of, even when we're looking at past situations and when we reminisce, to do so from a place of love and acceptance, even if it was a difficult and challenging time. Because those things come up a lot at the holidays too, especially when we lose loved ones around the holidays, and then we hold on to that too. Oh, there's a yawn. So, I knew we had a lot of people when I was a kid. There was a lot of people who died around the holidays for a period of time. And then, there would be this all lamenting, oh, well, I don't do anything at Thanksgiving. Not me, but others. And I'm just like, why not honor them in love? To say, I am so grateful to have had our time together. I am so in a space of love to have you memorial, have you in spirit, and know that you're here in spirit, versus, oh, how awful it is to be without them. Because that also helps us to come to a different perspective on passing, on those who've passed. Helps us to come to a different perspective on, bad situation, what we judge as bad situations. So going into, as we're in the holiday season, right, and this is really prevalent right now, we have the choice. And it's and I'll tell you why this is important. So we tend to all focus, there's so much focus in this season of shifting and changing, and however you want to look at it as the messages and how they represent themselves to us this time of year. But you have, the winter solstice, you have the you have Yule and Christmas and Hanukkah and Kwanzaa and all these other, and New Year's, and all kinds of stuff, right? Of transition, period of transition and transformation. Commit yourself to that, right? And we have, so we tend to sometimes get stuck in things that aren't now, right? I don't want to say the past, but just things that aren't now. What's going to happen, what happened, what didn't happen, there's anxiety. Why do people have anxiety about getting gifts over the holidays? Well, because I don't have this money, but I feel like if I don't spend this on this person, they're going to be mad at me. Seriously, that's what many people go through. Oh, well, I'm a bad person if I don't get people, like my kids or my family or whatever, these kind of presents, or my parents. and I'm such a loser because like those are the things that come up, right? So then people get stressed. And instead of looking at the essence again, right? So look at the season and the essence of the purpose of that over the material things, right? And when we say, because, people always say, well, how old were your kids when you talked to them about Santa? And I'm like, about what? I was like, because the way I always explained it, like when they got older too, was, Santa isn't here. It's all about the magic of this time of year. It's the magic of remembering that we're all part of the same thing, that we all love that we can all be in a space of love, that we can be together no matter what our differences are and all that kind of stuff. And the key is for us to hold that magic. And I said, there were years I had no idea how we were going to pull off Christmas, and we did when you guys were younger. I'm like, and we did. And things, of course, got better and all that kind of stuff. I'm like, but and I know many are out there doing that, and they're putting on this great face, but then they're like, like killing themselves. And most of it are the stories they're telling themselves about what it's supposed to be. If you don't like a tradition, it doesn't serve you, it doesn't align with where you are, then change it. Simplify it. If it's too complex for you, then simplify it. There was a time that my husband and I got to a place where we were like, we are buying way too many gifts for people that we are really not close with, that really are in our lives, but because they look like they're supposed to be, we're supposed to do that. And we just said, okay, we're going to stop. I give gifts because my heart tells me to give a gift. And it's not just during the holidays, it's any time of the year. And so, like, if we can do that the rest of the year, why can't we do that now and say, okay, I'm going to give a gift from my heart, not to just check off a list, right? And I'm going to do it because I love somebody and because I want to share love with them. And it can be a smallest thing. One of the best gifts I love is right behind me, right back here, is my friend who did this doodle of an ice cream cone, because I always talk about how all these different spiritual practices are there's so many different ones today, but they're all ice cream. They're just different flavors of ice cream, but they all get us there depending on what the individual's path is and what resonates with them. And I love that because it was so representative. And these things are connected and heartfelt, and they feel so much more personal, right? And if we commit ourselves to connecting with the essence instead of sticking like with the judgment of how we identify people through stories, then we have much more authentic interactions. And then you do things without expectation, right? Because I can't tell you how many times I hear somebody said, well, I sent a gift to so-and-so, and I never like got an okay and a thank you. I never got an acknowledgement. And I'm like, why is it important to you? Did you send it from love, or did you send it because you just wanted them to feel that they wanted to think that you were a good person? And that would make you feel good about yourself, because that's what we do, right? And so if we just say, well, I'm giving this gift because it's coming from my heart to share my love and connection with this individual. And I'm doing it with free of expectation. I'm doing it in a place of giving and emoting my love. And to do that, though, is for us to really focus on that unconditional self-love first. That is the biggest gift that we can give ourselves, right? And when we do that, we can then much more authentically have that connection. And we can do so without being trapped and limited by the stories that we tell ourselves about ourselves and other people, because then we can be whoever we are right now. And when we commit ourselves to doing it from a space of connectedness and love, self-love especially, then we do that without expectation, without obligation, right? We do it from love and fun and expansion. And I love some of the stories I've been watching. There's a Facebook friend of mine that I met in Peru last year, and she does this 30 days of connection and sharing, and it's an amazing thing every year. I just love that we're connected. And she just walks up to people, and she has these Kenya bracelets that send these children to school, and she just gives them to these people for like things, for being an important person, for connecting. And also raises a bunch of stuff for people in need and whatever. But the thing is, that's not the point. The point is not that she does that stuff for other people. The point is that she shares that from herself, and that she connects. The connecting part is the most important. To say, we judge people by what they look like, by the house they live in, by the cars. And these are stories. The cars that they drive, the jobs that they have or don't have, the roles that they play. Like, so if somebody lives in a tent in the woods, we tend to judge them differently than if they live in a nice house in the suburbs, So, but then there's no difference. We're all divine beings. And when we allow ourselves to open our heart and connect, and we get beyond the stories, it's nice to get the story, right? And it makes us individual and it makes us interesting, but it's not for us to define ourselves through the story. And other people through the story too. Like, I love listening to everybody's, story and everything else. But then the thing is, I don't hold judgment on that individual by their story. I look for the nuggets of their essence underneath it. And that's the important part. So as we flow through the holidays, commit yourself to that. Commit yourself to you every day, to that authenticity, and commit yourself to staying in a place of love and connection, and also letting go of the stories, not only of yourself, but of others around you, opening your heart, setting that space so that it's enjoyable and heart-filled and expansive, and see where that goes, instead of, and get rid of all those judgments of, oh, I hate doing this, or I hate getting together, and oh, it's such a chore to do this, whatever. It's because when we do that, then we set that energy up to begin with, right? So when we change it and say, you know what, it's going to be fun, it's going to be expansive, and I'm going to allow myself all possibility and with an open heart. Do that and commit yourself to your own authenticity, and stay in that place of love, because that's really what all these holidays are about, is that connection. And when we master that, then we can stay in that space all the time. And then it doesn't have to be a special time of year for us to do this. So look at that. Look at where you are in your stories. Look at where you are in connecting with other people, and the stories you tell yourself about them as you connect with them. And allow yourself to erase them. And like I said, just connect in their essence and from a place of love for yourself and with others. On that, I'm going to let you go. Thank you for joining me. Have a great week, and great holiday, because for those who are celebrating holidays and stuff, we'll see you next Thursday. I will be here. Have a great one. This is Angela Coulter signing out on this week's Living the Shift.